Good to see you, Liam. First of all, where do you think you're at with a few days to go before the kick-off?
Where are we at? I think we've instilled some really good behaviours, habits, some cultural aspects that I think are really important foundation-wise going forward. Introduced a lot of new work for the lads, which naturally I think will take time, but they're in a good spot. I think they're really bought in, they're working hard. I think you see, especially it's pleasing last weekend to see some of the progress from the initial weeks of pre-season, but we're good to go. Can't wait.
That was going to be one of my questions. What's more important, behaviours or hard work?
I think one is the other, right? I think the hard work is a result of having excellent behaviours, which we put that. I think the lads have been great for that. I think, of course, we came in, we framed it. I think it's the most important thing. I think it, on a tough day, I think it keeps you competitive. It keeps you in there. I think, and on in a good moment, I think it keeps you grounded. Staying humble. So I think hard work's non-negotiable for me. It's the bare minimum we expect. And of course, we know then lads around it will perform well. We'll have other games that are tough, etc. So you're going to get a bit of everything. But I think what you have to fall back on is top behaviours.
I don't think everyone expected the amount of turnover in players which have happened. I mean, 11 summer signings and 2 this week as well.
Yeah, busy period, but I think it shows an element of intent as well. I think in terms of a fair amount of change, but I think in terms of areas that needed obviously addressing and improving. Other one in terms of opportunities. So I'm delighted with the work that we've done, the support we've had in terms of being able to get people in. I think and be proactive. I think quite often you'll find yourself in situations where you have to move out before you can get in, which we're terrific. We're fortunate in the support we've had, obviously from the guys above to be able to do that. So squad's in a good spot from the competition, the depth, and the fact that we've been able to do early work means we've had more time on the grass for them, which is also a huge benefit.
I was going to say, I mean, the fact that some of them have arrived sort of imminently, so to speak, will they have enough time to gel into the group?
Naturally, it will get better over time. I think just understanding each other's relationships, some of the new bits we've added or the rewiring that we're doing, I think there's certain aspects around it that naturally will take time. We want to win on Saturday, so we have to try and accelerate that. And the staff, I think, have done a good job behind the scenes to try and make it as clear as possible for the players in terms of the expectations. I think it's not always easy to align a group of 11 players, 20 players, obviously with the subs as well. I think it's the bit that takes a little bit of time, but we have to accelerate that because ultimately we want to hit the ground running Saturday. And
give us your thoughts on, or your words on the most recent signing of Richard Topic and Nakano as well.
Yeah, both two really exciting profiles. Mirko, in terms of I think you look at his physical attributes and brings a different profile to what we've got in that area of the pitch already. I think in terms of defensively, strong ball winner. You see that in many aspects of his game. So it brings us a different dimension in there, and obviously Jovan in terms of is a homegrown attacking player that again another one when you look at his physical attributes, seeing him train this morning, how he moves. He's a huge amount of potential, so he's one that we're excited to have here.
Yeah, and finally, you said you want to win the first game. It's obvious every manager is going to say the same thing as well. The good thing from your point of view is that you're going to a game about a manager you already know about as well in Alex Smith.
Yeah, of course. I think it's one of those, it's controlling what we can. You always get that, the unknown in terms of what people do pre-season friendly, so you haven't. It's a bit harder to make assessments on, expectations around how they'll set up, what we expect. I'm sure they'll have elements of transition within their group as well. Everybody at this stage has got varying levels of new players, so it's one of those, it's controlling what we can. So, we'll go in fully prepared. We'll have a plan. We'll empower the players and give them real confidence to own the plan and make decisions off the back of it. And yeah, we'll have a right go.
Super, all the very best.
Thank you.
Cheers, Tommy. Connor?
Yeah, Liam, good to see you. Thanks for your time. Just to sort of start, I guess, on injuries, where are you at with the squad generally heading into this weekend?
Yeah, nothing majorly different to what we spoke about previously. I think a few are progressing really well and heading in the right direction and are on track. Which, again, I know everybody likes time frames, but you of course you have to respond to how players react to different aspects of the rehab program. So we're pleased with where the lads are at, and they're all moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about a few, not necessarily because of time frames, but just to sort of update on how they're going. I mean, Kenny McLean, a couple of weeks post-surgery, has he kind of responded to that in the way that you guys hoped he would?
Yeah, very well. Yeah, really well. So he's progressing nicely. So again, he's on track for the initial time frames that we were hoping for. So yeah, he's in a good spot. He brings a huge amount behind the scenes as well that you don't always see come game day or training wise, but he's out there. He's extremely vocal. So he brings a much needed voice, I think, to the changing room as well.
Movo as well. Whereabouts is he in terms of recovery and building back into the group?
Yeah, again, similarly, he's out on the grass. He's building up. He's still a few weeks away, but he's definitely moving in the right direction. And yeah, you see him. He looks in a good spot mentally as well, which I think is important for the lads on their return to play. I think making sure that they feel like footballers and that they're around the group and a part of it's equally important.
What I did want to ask you about was Emanuel Ado, who obviously we saw at the start of pre-season. I think there was a bit of a groin issue in the Netherlands. Is that cleared up now, or is he still kind of working his way back?
Still working his way back, yeah. Still working his way back from that one.
Yeah, cool. Obviously, with Kenny out, there'll be a need to pick someone else to be the on-pitch captain on Saturday. Have you made a choice?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see.
Are we able to?
You'll see on Saturday.
We'll see. Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of how that's selected, because all coaches do it differently. Some of them involve the players, some of them go down the coaching route. What's been your approach to that? Obviously, I'm sure Kenny's been consulted as well.
Yeah, it'd be my decision ultimately. I think that's the most important bit. Kenny will remain as captain, and we'll obviously have you'll find out on Saturday. When Kenny's not available, who steps in when he's not available.
And are you one of these coaches that likes to build almost like a leadership group as opposed to sort of individuals? Yeah,
we will do. I think it is still. Even Saturday is different for me. I've obviously had 6 weeks with the players, but you do a game, you do training, but when you play for 3 points in front of 25,000-30,000 people, it's a completely different experience and a different pressure, and it'd be good for me to learn about the lads that way. And I think what you then need is we need leaders, definitely, and that for me the strength comes in leading from numbers. So I think in terms of a leadership group, how we work, we'll definitely create that, but that's something I think rather than just throw it together, I think is something that is really important to us, and we have to get the right people, the right blend, the right characters, the right coverage of the group. I think is hugely important. So it's definitely something that we'll look to establish and create, and that will go from strength to strength as the season goes on.
Yeah, and I guess that's important because particularly I know fans focus on it a lot, and probably us guys do as well, in terms of actually physically who's wearing the armband, but it's bigger than that, isn't it? It's about creating, as you say a few times, a culture where that leadership is present within it, I suppose, from your perspective. Yeah,
definitely. And it comes back to the culture around the collective accountability. It's not just on me. I think I'm not an egomaniac. It's not about me driving everything and what I say goes. I think it's the collective of staff, players, them driving it as much as we do, them holding us to account, we hold them to account. I think it's that we've all got the same goal across the club, so it's that collective approach to really push standards and really push high performance. And when you look at it, a leadership group is a part of that, and only helps facilitate and support driving the standards even higher. So yeah, it's definitely something that will be an integral part of that we do.
You obviously spoke a minute ago about the two new arrivals. I mean, on Mirko in particular, you may or may not be aware, but defensive midfield is an area that I think the fan base has looked at for a long period of time, and really wanted somebody in. You mentioned his physical attributes, and is it just about, as you said earlier, that different profile to what you've already got in the building, and did you sort of come in and identify that as maybe an area where you probably needed a different sort of profile in?
Yeah, there's some really good discussions, behind the scenes around what goes into the correct squad balance. I think that's really important. I think when you look at, building a competitive team, I think you need different profiles, and you need you need players in certain positions to complement each other's strengths and weaknesses. And it was an area that we, and to be fair, I think we've got some super talented ball-playing competitive midfielders, but when we talk around super strengths, I think, when you look at Mirko, his defensive attributes is one of those. So it's something that definitely adds, to the profile that we've got in that area. And of course, as we've got now, is competition. So it's, of course, there's an element that everybody has to, step up and deliver, but it gives us the scope and the flexibility, game to game, to look at what profiles do we need, what types do we need, while still, staying clear on our identity and not changing every single game. But it gives us that option to, to be able to tweak things.
And with Jovan, what is it in particular about him at League One level and the breakthrough that he had at Lincoln that really attracted you guys to him? Because he's played a multitude of positions as well across that front line.
Yeah, I think if you look at his, he was a good goal return last year for where he's at in his career. I think, knowing League One as well, it's not an easy thing to do. I think then if you look at the types of goals, you look at his qualities that he's got, they're not easy. You can't develop some of the things he's got. You see him this morning, his power and his pace, his directness, ball carrying for someone of his size is excellent. So, and there's, of course, naturally, he's lots to work on, lots to do. That's our job to coach him, his job to learn it and be all in on trying to become the best version of him. But he's someone that's, again, slightly different to what we've got, higher up the pitch as well.
You mentioned competition earlier, versatility as well, particularly in those attacking players. Is that an attribute that's been important to you? Because you've got now a lot of players that can play in a multitude of positions across that front line. I guess it strengthens your options as a coach with setups and sort of adapting to different opponents and whatnot.
Yeah, and I like that. I think, of course you need certain specialists in certain areas, but I like the fact that I think it's, a few years ago when they changed to being able to make 5 subs, I think it's a huge impact on games now. How you can, be quite aggressive with it, make multiple changes and, change the flow, the feeling of a game depending on who you bring on. So, yeah, the fact we've got different profiles, with the ball, without the ball, physically, technically different types in terms of strengths. It only helps us in terms of game to game, but also in game changes.
I was going to ask you about physicality as well. You mentioned it earlier. Has that been conscious in terms of adding that level of physicality into the squad? Is that an area that you sort of looked at and felt Norwich were a little bit short with last season, I suppose? Yeah,
I think it's one of those. Of course, it's not complete fluke that we've gone in and brought in a little bit more physicality, but at the same point, I think the drive has still been in terms of bringing in good footballers. I think that's first and foremost what we want to work with, and I think it's then trying to find the right blend and balance of, having some small, extremely technical, talented players. What do you need to then go with that to be competitive? And as everybody knows, set piece is a huge part of the game. It helps strengthen us in that area as well, which is equally important. But yeah, I think it's one of those we've got a real good blend of. People talk about physical qualities. I think, I look at Forson, who, physically is outstanding in terms of his agility, his change of direction, how quickly he can move. So I think it's having all different types of profiles within the group physically, and we've got that at the minute.
11 in so far, as you said, and you mentioned the word proactivity. How helpful is it as a coach to have so much business done before this first game? Because, as you said, there are clubs that are in states of flux. Of course, you may well want to add more to it, and you'll inevitably lose some as well. But to have that base there, that must be really helpful as a coach, I guess, in terms of trying to settle that squad down. Definitely. I think sometimes you can rush and do too much just for the sake of trying to be proactive, but it doesn't feel like that. It's felt like we've done it. Lee and Ben and the recruitment guys have done a terrific job. A huge amount of work goes in behind the scenes to make sure they're the right fit for us. Huge amount when you see it in terms of the detail that they go into. So again, I think it's been a real strength being able to do that. And naturally, then when we talk around fast tracking relationships or people coming from overseas, helping them try and settle a little bit quicker, and it's a big difference. Lads coming in, if you can get them settled in an apartment or in a house, a few weeks before the season starts, naturally, I think if you're quite settled off the pitch, it helps. Then you can come in and focus on, being the best version of you when you play. So yeah, the proactive work early has definitely helped. Been really pleased with what we've done so far. And you know what fans are like? They're greedy. They want to know if there's any more coming. Is it now about a balance? Because you spoke about this after Saturday in terms of where the squad's at and the size of it. Is it now going to be about losing a few before you look to add again? If you want to add again, where do you feel the squad is at transfer wise?
Yeah, we're a little bit heavy numbers wise, so we know a consequence of that is we'll be players wanting minutes that potentially won't get them. So again, I think that's where there's conversations behind the scenes around potentially being completely transparent and honest with people, and being quite clear where they're at and what it looks like. I think it then allows for them to explore opportunities, and at the same point us in terms of, like I said, we are a little bit heavy number wise. So I think it's one of those. I'm not going to commit to any numbers or what's going to happen in the future, because until something's definite, it's all speculation. But whilst people are here, as long as they work hard, as long as they show respect, as long as they do things properly, then that'll be reciprocated, because ultimately they're under contract. So we'll look after people, we'll do things properly, and And then we'll see what happens.
That was sort of going to be my next question. You kind of touched upon it there in terms of you've spoken a lot about culture building and the importance of togetherness since you've been here. When you've got such a big group and there's maybe a little bit of uncertainty from some within that, and I'm sure you're going to have to make tough decisions again on Saturday in terms of maybe who's not involved rather than who is involved. How do you protect that culture within that? Because as you said, there's a lot of factors within there that I'm sure are going through players' minds at the moment as well.
I think clarity for everybody. I think, it laying down references and being totally upfront, honest, straight, which unfortunately doesn't always happen in today's world. I think being able to sit with a player and set expectations, be clear. Then I think nobody, you can hold people to account then. I think it's when there's grey areas or you're not upfront, then you cause that uncertainty, which can have the impact. So for me, we'll be upfront, honest, to the point, and then off the back of that, we'll then obviously work like we need to.
Just one on Ben Krezene, because I think he sort of got lost on Saturday a little bit, but he was in sort of a hybrid role, third centre-back, left-back, quite sort of fluid. What have you made of him sort of stepping into the building? I think we've seen his pedigree as a young player and first year at Norwich last year, and there were injuries within that, and it was maybe a little bit difficult for him. What have you made of him, and obviously his return as well, because he's just come back with a long-term injury, but clearly a player that you see a lot of potential in?
Definitely, and that's the challenge, I think, for Ben and for us as a staff, to turn that. How do we turn that potential into really high-level, consistent performances? Because I thought he did well at the weekend. I thought he showed some really good moments. Showed some moments, obviously, that as did all the guys, that need to work on and clean up and get better at. But I think it's one of those with Ben. I think he can cover multiple positions, which is a strength. I think it's then, how do we now make sure that he pushes to be available for every single week, and that comes with, obviously, with the injury he had, that comes with building up a base of minutes and training, etc. So we'll support him, we'll push him, and he's a terrific character, and he's someone that is going to be pushed and hopefully steps up and delivers.
Last few, just to sort of look ahead to the game, you kind of spoke about it earlier, but it's quite unique, the opening day, isn't it? Because I'm sure from an analysis perspective, there's not a lot of data to go on. Squads are different, you don't quite know where different players are at. So, as you said earlier, does it place more emphasis on what you guys do as opposed to sort of setting up to counteract what an opponent does? What does that balance look like?
I think of course it's a lot harder to do it now because you haven't got all the, you haven't got a high volume of previous championship games to watch in what they've been doing recently. So, but I also think even in season it has to be about us. I think everything has to be about us, and of course that means we do the work on the opposition. There's an army of staff that drill into trends and patterns and what do we expect, but it should always come back to us. We only get that information to help us be better. So again, at the weekend, it's ultimately what can we control, and that has to be our approach every game. So we can control how hard we work, can control our organisation, our bravery to play forward and attack, and have purpose in all our actions. They're the bits we can control. So that for me is where our energy has to go.
I think Alex Neil, you think of his team because he was here, so we kind of know that. You think about well structured and being good off the ball and high pressing and all of those elements. So does that help in terms of there may be, as you say, some trends that you can kind of prepare for, even if you're not quite sure in terms of how that will look on an individual basis across the team?
Yeah, of course. I've coached against Alex numerous times as well. So again, I think there's the bits you mentioned there. I think every club you look at, he's done a terrific job, I think, in terms of, firstly, you can see the expectations he instills in the players, and then, the organisation, the clarity in expectations and roles is quite clear. So, yeah, of course, we know as every single championship game it's going to be an extremely difficult one.
And finally, I mean, I know you spoke about the fans after Saturday. I'm sure there'll be some fans who maybe what impact can I make anyway on a game and on players? And you've spoken about the connection that you're trying to forge. So, just again, I guess, probably to reiterate from your perspective, what role can they play? How important are they to what you guys are trying to do and achieve this season?
Huge, and I think we're quite transparent with the players. I think in terms of the importance of them and that connection. And I keep talking about go back to COVID, but you see it. Football wasn't the same without fans. The game's for the fans. So again, I think it is. We've all got the same at this stage, same common goal. We want to be successful. We want to, achieve things together. We want to create memories, which I think is really important. I think talk about being proactive in the recruitment. It's the same. Tell the lads they have to be proactive on Saturday when they turn up. They have to be, 2 steps ahead mentally. They have to be prepared to, to give absolutely everything. And what we know across the course of a championship season, we're going to play well, play poorly. We're going to win. We're going to lose. We're going to draw. it's as long as we leave absolutely everything out there, we can have no regrets, and I think that's the really, really important bit. And that'd probably be the same thing for the fans. Super excited, can't wait to get there in front of a full house on Saturday, and then it's that turn up, make as much noise as you can, because it definitely goes a long way in supporting the lads and giving them that lift that, you know, can help massively.